It's travel season, and that means that a lot of you are going to have questions about what kind of items you can take on a plane with you and how to pack for, those crochet projects that you want to do while you're on your travels and all of that kind of good stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today on this episode of Off the Hook Crochet. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to invite the like button over for a cup of tea and to crochet some nice little coaster cozies that will go perfectly with that. And subscribe so you always have great content to watch when you're working on your next project. And of course, if you're like me, you're curious about the top that I'm wearing. So this was one of the first garments that I made that wasn't just a hexagon sweater. And I love it. It got me to kind of use some of those skills and expand some of those things. And actually, once you have the hang of it, it's a really easy workup. This is the Vivian top, and I'll make sure to link that in the show notes, of course, below. Okay, so let's dive into some of these travel tips that I have to share with you today. Do you really want to be crocheting on your next trip?
You kidding me right now?
That could be a big question just to answer right off the bat. Some people love to have a project to work on to kind of keep their mind quiet. Sometimes travel can be a little bit anxious, a little bit stressful. Even when you're at your location, sometimes there can be some additional stress. So having a crochet project might be a perfect thing to help calm some of that anxiety that you might be experiencing. But on the flip side, if it's going to create more anxiety, or if you're going to be so busy with all of the activities during your travel or your vacation, then maybe you don't need to even think about this because crocheting during your trip is not even going to be something to consider. And in that case, save this video for later because the next trip you take, it might be something that's beneficial to you. Now, if you have decided that yes, you totally want to crochet while you are on this trip, whether it's just during your travel time or even throughout, whether you're going to visit family for the holidays and there's going to be some downtime that you want to work on, those kind of things, the first thing that you're going to want to decide is what project you're going to take with you. This is going to be a big decision because you don't want something like a big, thick blanket or too much big chunky yarn, something that's going to take up a lot of space, because whether you're flying on a plane or traveling in a car, something that is big and thick and chunky is just too cumbersome to kind of deal with. Trust me, I've crocheted in the car, I've crocheted on a plane, I've crocheted in an RV, I've crocheted in a hotel room, I've crocheted in an Airbnb, I've crocheted on a beach, at a ballpark, on a kayak, so I get it. I've crocheted it. If you can think of a place that I've crocheted, I've probably crocheted there. I haven't crocheted in a movie theater yet, but the lighting might be an issue. Maybe a neck lamp. Anyway, that's the first thing to consider. Consider bringing something that's smaller and much more module, maybe like granny squares or maybe a hat or something smaller that's more compact and lightweight. And also consider the yarn that you're using, because if you're going to use something like this is a blanket yarn and it's really thick and it takes up a lot of space. Takes up a lot of space in your suitcase. Versus this is 400 yards of fingering weight versus, let's see, I forget. This is 220 yards. So just over half as much of this, and look at that size difference. So if you're packing a whole bunch of this, it might be an issue. You might want to consider a project that uses thinner yarn. I gotta say, one of the things I don't like about this top is I need to do a little extra row because my bra always shows. This is not an X-rated video, so hopefully that doesn't happen too often. So that's one of the things you're going to want to consider is the yarn that you're using for that particular project and what weight it is, how much of it you're going to need. Obviously, the blanket weight yarn you're going to go through much, much faster than a fingering weight yarn. Aran weight, worsted weight, you're probably going to be okay. That's not quite as chunky as the blanket yarn, so that might be a good size, kind of a good compromise if you don't like the thinner yarns and you have more project selection with something like a worsted weight than maybe a fingering. Make sure that you consider the weight of the yarn that you're taking. But then there's also how much yarn are you going to take with you? Do you need 3 skeins in the amount of time that you're going to be traveling, or is 1 skein going to be enough? So really kind of factor that in also as you're kind of planning out how much time you might have. And remember, there are stores along the way. So if you run out of yarn and you're just like, I just really want to keep crocheting, it's okay to pick up a skein of yarn that you can just do a quick project with. It doesn't have to match what you're doing. It doesn't have to continue the project you're doing. It could just be something that you're going to work on to kill some time. So that's always okay too. There's stores most everywhere we go. And of course, there's always Amazon, and Amazon has drop boxes, which means that you can have the items delivered to a drop box, and then you just go show up at a Walmart or wherever these drop boxes are and pick it up. Handy dandy. Well, probably not a Walmart. Walmart probably wouldn't like that. But we've been to grocery stores. We've been to all kinds of different places that have Amazon drop boxes that you just go and pick them up. So now, one of the biggest questions that comes up a lot is, can I take my hooks and scissors on the planes? The first thing I'm going to tell you is always, always, always check the TSA regulations and your airline regulations, because sometimes, not very often, but sometimes airline regulations are going to be a little bit more strict than TSA. Typically, they're just going to honor what TSA says, but I always just say, CYA, cover your butt and make sure that you check both, especially if you're flying internationally, then there's going to be additional kind of levels of that. But as of this recording, in the fall of 2024, TSA states that you can take on a pair of scissors that measures no more than 4 inches from the pivot point. This is the pivot point. It's not the entire length, it's just that much. So 4 inches, you can have that much of a scissor. You can see these are almost 4 inches altogether. So that much, these scissors are totally fine to take on a plane. Absolutely fine. And these are very, very common to get in, like you might buy a set that has a couple of pairs of scissors and they usually have a small pair. These are very, very common. But I'll also link, I just bought some new ones on Amazon, so I'll link those below. If you're really worried about it though, sewing kits often have these tiny, teeny, tiny little pairs of scissors. You can take those, totally no problem. These will generally cut most of the things that you're going to need. They're not the sharpest, obviously, but they are for sure going to get through any TSA issues. Not a problem whatsoever. And I've even heard of people using like fingernail clippers. So get creative if you're concerned with it. Now, hooks and even knitting needles, those long, deadly looking things, are not a problem for TSA. I have heard some horror stories of people having their hooks confiscated. I'm not sure how much, maybe that was a different time or maybe that was an international flight. I'm not sure. But what I would tell you is, don't take your most expensive favorite hooks. Take something that's inexpensive. That way, if it does happen to you, you're not going to be heartbroken. If it gets lost, you're not going to be heartbroken. Better safe than sorry in this case. I've never had an issue taking hooks on a plane, but I don't take ones that cost me, $20 per hook either. So, or more in many of these cases. So consider that when you're taking your hooks. Take some hooks that are not going to break you if they do get stolen or confiscated. Stolen? Was that a Freudian slip? It might have been a Freudian slip. Yeah. So make sure that you take the hook that you need for your project. I would probably be okay taking one, but just make sure that it's not an expensive one because you're going to try and keep track of that. Now, I've seen these cute little like keychain hooks. Those are great because then you're not going to lose it. I have a tendency it kind of falls in my lap and then I'm like, wait, where was that? And if I'm on a plane, it might get lost. So I might be inclined to take an extra, but again, there's stores wherever we go and Amazon delivers just about everywhere I can think of. So you're covered. You also want to make sure that you have all of your little additional things, the needles, in case you need to tie in some ends, your little pins. You can't see that one very well. So you might want to have something like a little pill case. This is just a pill case, and it has different compartments. So I can put my little pins in there. I can put my needles and my tiny little scissors in there. And so I've got enough room for just a little bit of stuff in there. And it's nice and compact so that you have something that fits nicely wherever you're going. It doesn't take up a lot of room. You just take what you need. You don't have these big pumpkin sized containers, and that works out very nicely. And then for my hooks, I have a few different options that I will take. One is I actually love to use eyeglass holders. So if you have a favorite eyeglass holder, you can throw some hooks in there. You can even throw your scissors in there. Actually, these are a little bit too big, but my other ones I think fit. You can throw your needles in there. You can throw your measure in there and close it up and you're good to go. It fits in your bag. The hook doesn't get hooked on anything. The scissors don't poke anything. Everything's nice and good to go. I've also used pencil cases. Pencil cases work really well, and they've got the zipper. The thing that I like about the hard-sided eyeglass cases is that I can flip it open and it kind of lets me look through it a little bit better than this does. This kind of, everything gets buried, but whatever works for you. And then honestly, I have even used the soft microfiber, that's the word I'm looking for, microfiber case that glasses come in, especially if I have a crochet bag, a project bag that I'm taking, and I just need the hook. I don't need anything else. I can drop the hook in there, or even the hook and a pair of scissors, whoops, and then that's not going to get stuck on anything. It's not going to hook in anything. So it's just an easy little thing. So find whatever you have around the house. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be expensive. Just a couple of little things that you can use to carry your extra little goodies in to keep them all organized so you don't lose them. What do we carry our projects in? You're going to want to pack probably some extra yarn in your suitcase, especially if you're flying, because you don't want to necessarily take it all on your carry-on, presuming that you're taking a bag that you're actually checking. What you want to take in your carry-on, you want to minimize as much as possible, because you're probably also going to have some other things. You might have some snacks, you might have your purse and your wallet and all those kind of good things. So you don't necessarily want something that is taken up completely with crochet stuff. And you want to have something that you are really cautious of those people around you. So think about those things when you're packing for your carry-on, or if you're going in a car, what's going to be sitting next to you in the car seat or on the train, those kind of things. Now, you can always get some amazing zipping bags, and I think they're on my Christmas list to buy some project bags that zip closed or button closed, snap closed. In the meantime, I use recycled Amazon bags. So if you order any clothes from Amazon, you know that they often come in these Ziploc bags. And these things, you can use a Ziploc bag, but why not reuse what you have? And these come in different sizes, which comes really handy. And they often have, here's the secret, little air holes in them. You can see these little air holes. So if you don't want to put your yarn through the top, just poke it through there, and all of a sudden you have a very handy yarn delivery system. You might have to make the hole a little bit bigger. Like I did on this one, I actually tore it so that it was a little bigger so the yarn fed a little bit better. But these reusable bags are perfect for sticking a few skeins, or maybe not a few skeins, some yarn in so that it keeps it clean. It's not getting dirty from all of the stuff that's floating around. It keeps it contained so it's not rolling. Have you seen that video of the yarn that rolls down the aisle of the plane? Yeah, I would die. That would be hysterical. This will keep it so that it's not rolling away from you, and yet it's coming out nicely through the hole that you've created in the bag. And if it gets messed up, totally okay. You just throw it away. It's recyclable. You can throw it, you can trash it, whatever the case may be. But this would work nicely if you have a backpack or a purse or something else that you want to make sure that you're taking that, but you also want to bring the things that you need for your crochet. I also have a more dedicated crochet bag. I don't have one of those fancy backpacks. I haven't found the need for one yet. I don't carry that much stuff. But if I have a bigger project and I know that I have the space to take it, I have this bag. I got it for free actually as a Diamondbacks baseball team giveaway. And this is a wonderful bag. It's actually double lined, and it's cute, and it has some extra pockets in there, and there's like tons of room. So if I'm traveling and I need more space for my yarn, I will put it in here. And of course it has a zipper on it. So just look for the things that are going to be helpful for you in the activities, the way that you crochet, the way that you travel. Think about those things when you're considering what kinds of bags that you want to use to pack your stuff in. Now, a couple other tips that you might want to consider. I know a lot of you are very paper kind of oriented project people. And so all of your projects, you like to have them printed out for you. So a couple of tips if that's you. Get some of these and you can put your project inside here. And then what you can do is get like one of those clips, and you can clip all of the pages together so that you have them all nice and neat. These are nice because you can fold them up. They help to keep your project from getting totally messy, and it just makes everything a little bit more smooth. Now, for me personally, I like the idea of having a digital copy of my pattern. I use digital anyway. And in fact, I use them. I'll link to how I do my, actually, it's probably going to end up over here. I'll link to how I do my patterns on a program called Notion. I think it's fabulous, and I would really love to convert more people because I just think it's awesome. Not because I'm getting paid by Notion, trust me. This is a free program, so it doesn't cost you anything other than some time to set up, but it's fabulous. But I like to have it so that I can kind of just have this on my lap and look at the pattern as I go. I don't have to worry about if it's getting all crinkled or messy or flipping through the pages, just the way that I am. And I find that so much easier for me to have a digital pattern, and then I know it's not going to get lost. I mean, the worst case scenario is I run out of battery and then I have to recharge my device. I just have to make sure that I bring chargers. And of course, if you're bringing some projects like that, you want to really be mindful of the space. If you're on a plane or a train where there are other people, you don't want to be like waving your arms and making big motions, or having this having this project that's taking up a lot of space. So just think about those kind of things as you're planning these types of things. You know, if you have your yarn here and your crochet pattern over here and your hook and your stitch markers and your pad and everything else, and it just gets everywhere, then that might intrude on somebody else's space. Now, of course, if it's your husband sitting next to you, he can be your personal little tray and hold all those things for you, and it's all good, right? And then consider, like, if you're flying a red eye or late in the evening at night when everybody's kind of winding down and it's dim, you might want to use like a headlamp or a neck lamp to light your project so that you have more light, that you can see those stitches and you can see what's going on. So as you're packing your things, consider bringing a neck lamp as well. That will just kind of give you a little bit extra assistance. Okay, so to recap, let's just kind of go through really quick. Make sure that you're considering the type of project, the type of yarn that you're bringing, how much of those things do you need to bring. You totally right now are okay with scissors, but always check with your TSA. Size matters in this case. And pack all of those things that you're going to need for the length of time of the trip that you're going to be on, and just have fun with it and really enjoy. Do you travel a lot? Do you crochet while you're traveling? Do you crochet where you're traveling to? I would love to hear all of your thoughts on crochet and travel, what your tips are, what your favorite ideas and suggestions are, maybe some of your favorite tools too. Share all of those with me in the comments below, and we'll see you next week.